No. I
Because
think it's someone being careless.
what then?
Is it like someone being careless?
Okay, doing careless. Okay, what about Timson? 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 What about Timson? 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 No? Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
didn't fail to take care something.
Okay, fail to take care, all right. Okay, now you see, negligence means here a person did not exercise due care and diligence when carrying out the work. I'll repeat again, yeah. A person did not exercise due care, did not exercise due care and diligence, yeah, when carrying out the work. That means the person did not exercise due care and diligence when carrying out the duty. So that means that person was careless or the person was not cautious when carrying out the work. Okay, here negligent means here he don't have any intention. The person did not have any intention to harm another person. He did not have any intention to harm another person, but the mere fact he was careless or did not exercise due care and diligence when carrying out the duty, that means he was not cautious, a loss has taken place or he has caused harm, loss, or damage to a third party. Basically, here, normally the following to the plaintiff. So that means here he didn't have any intention to harm, but because of his carelessness, the loss has taken place or the damage has been suffered by the plaintiff. So he didn't have the intention. Whereas here, when you're talking about reckless, yes, you have the intention. Because you know why? Reckless here, you you know you know the consequences of it, you knew the repercussions of it, but nevertheless go on to do it. Let's say you're driving your car at 250 kilometers in the north south highway. Let's say you're driving your car at 250 kilometers in the north highway. That means you are speeding. Am I right? You know the risk, but nonetheless go on to continue to do it, and that is reckless. So that means you know the consequence of it. What would happen by you driving at this speed? But still you go on to do it. That is reckless. So that means you knew or you could foresee what would be the consequences of your driving at that speed, but still you go on to do it. Or nonetheless you go on to do it. That is reckless. Whereas negligence, you didn't have any intention to harm another person, but the mere fact you are not doing it properly, you have caused damage. You didn't have any intention to cause harm to that person, but the mere fact you are not careful, you have done a silly mistake without your knowledge, that has caused some loss or damage to the plaintiff. So of course the plaintiff would sue. So you need to know the difference between reckless and negligence. Reckless, you knew or you could foresee what would be the harm or what would be the consequences of your act, but still you go on to do it. Whereas negligence, you did not have any intention to harm a person. You did what you're doing is right, but you have done something wrong. It has caused loss, damage, or injury to the plaintiff or to the third party. Are you all clear on this? Hello? Any question, please? You need to know. That's why I'm trying to explain this very students. Hello, Shelly, are you clear on this, Shelly?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think the other day I've already explained to you all because negligence is one branch of law of thought. Am I right? Negligence is one branch of law of thought. Under law of thought, you have negligence, you have nuisance, you have vicarious liability, occupiers liability, defamation, trespass to land, trespass to person, and all the things. Okay. Have I explained to you all what you mean by law of thought? I think I did explain right. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, now since you said aloud, yes, can you explain to the class? What is your understanding of law of thought?
Law of thought is like
Ah,
the person
hmm.
did not have direct relationship,
Okay.
but the law of contract have direct relationship.
Okay, so you are trying to compare law of thought with law of contract, yeah?
Yes.
Contract, there is a contractual relationship between two parties. There is a contractual relationship between two parties. That means there is an agreement or contract between two parties. If one party did not fulfill, if one party did not fulfill the terms or the terms or the obligation in that contract, then one party is going to suffer loss, right? So the party will sue to recover for whatever loss or damage has been done by one party, because one party has failed to fulfill whatever obligation supposed to be done. Am I right? That is contract. Okay, so whereas law of thought, there is no relationship. In law of thought, there is no relationship between the parties, but yet one party could be held liable towards the other. Okay, law of thought, there's no relationship between the parties, but yet one party could be held liable towards the other party. Provided, very important here, provided one party has done, provided one party has done an act which is unreasonable. Provided one person has done an act which is unreasonable. And if that unreasonable act could harm another person, then you owe a duty of care towards that person. You owe a duty of care towards that person. Is it clear? Hello? Any question, please?
No.
All are clear, yeah, Shelly? Everyone clear, yeah? So, okay, now we are going to focus on your, now I'm going to focus on your law of negligence. Okay, the main bulk here, the main bulk of law of negligence is law of thought. Yeah, law of thought is one subject, am I right? But the main bulk is negligence. That means, in fact, half of this, the syllabus of law of thought, yeah, covers on negligence. Negligence. So that means, yeah, negligence is a very, very, very important topic in your um, law of thought. Okay, now let me go through how to establish negligence. Okay, whatever, yeah, I think you all have this slide. If I'm not mistaken, you all have some of the slides, right? Hello, do you all have the slides with you all? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Have.
okay. I think you all, I've given you all 2-3 slides, yeah. But whatever I'm explaining, try to put it down somewhere, yeah. Try to jot down somewhere that this is you need on the day of the exam. Okay, but don't worry about your assignment. You know why? Because once been finalized by next week, yeah, I will tell you which area, how the question I've set on your assignment, and I will go through with you briefly a skeleton, how to go about answering it very briefly. Okay, and what are the cases need to put in and all the thing I will explain. Don't worry on that. Yeah. Okay. Now, law of thought. Yeah. Okay. Negligence. Okay, I've already explained negligence. Negligence derived from the word duty of care. Negligence derive or arise from the word duty of care. Okay, when you say duty of care, yeah, when you say duty of care, yeah, when you say duty of care, yeah, do you owe a duty of care towards another person? Duty of care. Each and every one of us owes a duty of care in our normal daily living or whatever, Okay. Now, so that means, yeah, negligence, when you're talking about negligence, duty of care has to come there, because you owe a duty of care towards another person. Okay, now I'll go very slow here. Yeah? When I'm talking about negligence, yeah, you relate negligence with duty of care. Now, I ask you a simple question. Do you owe a duty of care towards your neighbor? Do you owe a duty of care towards your neighbor? You have not spoken to your neighbor. You have not spoken to your neighbor. You don't know who is he, whatever he is. But do you owe a duty of care towards your neighbor? You have not seen his face. You don't know what is he doing. But do you owe a duty of care towards your neighbor? And that is my question. Can anyone help me to answer this question, please? Since Joshua just finished. Okay, never mind.
I
Okay.
think when the neighbor do some unreasonable act or
Okay, I think I did explain right. Okay, when a person does an act which is unreasonable, when a person has done an act which is unreasonable, if that unreasonable act could harm another person, then you owe a duty of care towards that person. Then you owe a duty of care towards that person. But the key thing here is, yeah, that person should have done an act which is unreasonable. That person should have done an act which is unreasonable. Only then he owes a duty of care towards that person. And if he has done an act which is reasonable, what is reasonable? What is reasonable? What is a reasonable? Even we always talk about reasonable, right? What do you mean by reasonable? What do you mean by reasonable? We always talk about reasonable. What do you mean by reasonable?
not acting strange.
But I did explain what is a reasonable man the other day, right? Hello?
Not really, I think.
Yeah, I thought I did explain to the class who is a reasonable man the other day. No? Shelly, can you recall? Shelly, Zhang, can you recall?
Yes, I not really can recall it. I don't think I heard before.
Okay, now one simple question. Who is a reasonable man? Who is a reasonable man? Young, Van Bin, are you a reasonable man?
Yeah, I think I am.
Okay, how can you prove to me, to give me any facts to say you are a reasonable man? What are the qualities a reasonable man should have? Tell me then.
Not doing any unreasonable act.
Okay. So are you saying all educated person are reasonable and all uneducated person are unreasonable?
Not really, I think. It
Huh?
depends on their personality or
Ah,
some sort like their moral.
moral behavior.
Yeah.
You see, in the court, when a hearing is going on during the trial in the court, the judge will look at the accused, the judge will look at the accused. Accused is the person who has been charged in the court of marriage. Will ask the accused, would a reasonable man do this thing? Reasonable man would not have caused a harm like what you have done. I told you the other day, right? Yes or no? Did I explain this? Hello? No.
I think no.
Okay. You see, generally, the judge during a trial, when the case is going on, when the two lawyers are arguing in the court, the judge will look at the accused and ask this question: hey, would a reasonable man do has what you have done, a crime which you have committed? No reasonable man will do, but you have done it. Example, a person go and okay, A and B, A go and rape B. After raping her, killing her. After killing her, chopping her into small pieces and keep the meat in the fridge. And then every day cook and eat the meat, Now, would a reasonable man do this? Would a reasonable man do this?
No. What you mean is like mentally healthy, is it?
No, they're not. They are not mentally unsound. They're not mentally unsound. That's why sometimes judges, have you seen it? Judges will give a sentence. Hereby, you are sentenced to 300 years imprisonment. Have you seen? Sometimes the judges say, hereby you are sentenced to 150 years imprisonment. But the judge knew that nobody will live up to 150 years. But he's passing a judgment. You have to be in the prison for 150 years. Even good behavior, whatever, you're going to die in the prison. Am I right? Why the judge is sending a signal to the public, telling the public, this person has done such a horrendous crime, you know, he deserved to be in the prison for 300 years or 103 years, whatever. Okay. Now, did I give you an example of husband and wife? Did I give on reasonable man? I did give an example the other day, right? Yes or no? Hello? Tada.
For
About
the
what?
Ada kan?
About what?
Okay, husband and wife. One day the husband will tell to the wife, I'm going out station for 1 week. I would not be coming home for a week. Did I tell you this?
Yes, yes.
So there the judge will see who is a reasonable man. So a reasonable man in that situation would file for a divorce. I told you all right.
Yes, yes.
Am I right? So here you cannot take the law into your own hand and go and kill your wife or kill the man or you kill yourself. You can't do that. A reasonable man would not do that. A reasonable man would file for a divorce. Am I right? That's what a reasonable man will do. That no point of you taking the law into your own hand or killing yourself or killing them. True, isn't that? Betul kan? Am I right? Hello? Okay.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is here, so here a reasonable man must be a person who think logically and rationally. A person who can think logically and rationally is called a reasonable man. Is called a reasonable man. So now what I'm going to do is here, okay, I think this duty of care begin in the case of Donahue versus Stevenson. I've gone through that case with you all right. Donahue versus Stevenson, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, law of negligence start off from that particular case here. I'm sure all of you all knew what is the facts of the case, am I right? Did I explain the facts of the case to you all? The story of the case?
yes, I think. No.
Okay,
Yes.
so all of you all are clear on that fact because you know why? Because you need to know the facts of the case in order to answer whether your final exam question or your midterm exam, if they're going to have it with your final or even your assignment, you know, which you're going to get. So all of you are clear?
Yes.
Okay, so now in that case, yeah, in Donahue is the plaintiff and Stevenson is the defendant. Am I right? This is a civil case. Am I right? This is a civil case. This case went to the highest court in 1932. Okay, now did Donahue won the case or lost the case? Tell me, any one of you. Did Donahue won the case or lost the case?
Won the case.
Okay, now why the judgment was in favor of her? Why? Why?
Pardon?
Why she won the case? Any reason? What's the reason given by the judges? Tell me. Any one of you can answer this question.
Because the judges asked the defendant 3 questions, ma.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the first question? What's the first question asked? What is the first question raised?
Does the manufacturer owe a duty of care towards each of every customer?
Okay. Do the manufacturer owe a duty of care towards the plaintiff in this situation, right?
Yes.
The answer to that question, yes. They owe a duty of care because the end people is the consumers, am I right? Of course, the manufacturers owe a duty of care towards each and every consumer of that particular product, am I right? Yes, to that question. And what was the second question raised?
Has the manufacturer breached the duty of care?
Okay, has the manufacturer breached that duty of care, am I right? Of course, there must be a breach, isn't there? Okay, in this situation, has the manufacturer breached the duty of care?
Yes.
Was there a breach here? Okay, what was the breach here? What was the breach in this case? What was the breach in this particular case? What was the breach? What breach has taken place here in this case? Yes, can anyone help me? What was the breach in this particular case?
Cause the bottle inside the bottle got the snail mark, the nail
Ah.
or yeah.
Okay.
So
So-
it caused harm to the customer.
Okay, so here the breach was there was a decomposed snail inside that bottle of ginger beer because they failed in the quality control. Am I right? That was the breach because ginger beer should not have any decomposed snail inside that bottle. Right? That was the breach. The breach has taken place there. Okay, what's the third question? Because of the breach, has the plaintiff suffered loss, damage, or injury? Am I right? Because of the breach, has the plaintiff suffered loss, damage, or any injury? Am I right? Was there any loss suffered? Was there any?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, of course. That's a. She suffered from gastrointestinal pain. Am I right? She suffered from gastrointestinal pain. Am I right? So initially, yeah, listen carefully, very, very important. Yeah. Initially, the courts, even in Malaysia, we are using these three elements to prove whether negligence has taken place. And of course, that is also another, the fourth element, the remoteness test. Did I explain about the remoteness test?
No.
Okay, see, the remoteness test, yeah, you all need to know the remoteness test, very, very important, the remoteness test, you all need to know also the remoteness test. You see what the remoteness, the first is, who need to establish duty of care? Who need to establish duty of care? Who need to show duty of care?
The defendant, the seller.
No, in Donahue and Stevenson, who is the plaintiff and who is the defendant in this case?
Donahue is the plaintiff, Stevenson is the defendant.
So here, who was showing the proof throughout the case? Who need to show proof? Of course, the plaintiff, not the defendant. In a civil case, yeah, always bear in mind, in a civil case, always the plaintiff need to show proof. You know why? Because the plaintiff is the one who is bringing an allegation against the defendant. The plaintiff is the one who is bringing an allegation against the defendant, telling the defendant is at fault. So, of course, he need to show proof in the court that a fault has taken place. Okay, the burden of proving in a civil case always lies on the plaintiff. Okay, what is the standard proof for a civil case? What is the standard of proof for a civil case? What is the standard of proof? Did I explain to you all on balance of probability? Did I?
Yes, you did mention
I did mention, yeah, balance of probability. Yeah, that is the standard of care. The plaintiff need to show proof in a civil case on balance of probability in order to win a case, a civil case. Whereas criminal cases, what is the standard of proof?
beyond reasonable doubt.
Beyond reasonable doubt. So that means criminal cases, the burden is higher than civil. Civil case, yeah, balance of probability means, you know what you mean by balance of probability? All the plaintiff need to show proof in the court is that there was an agreement between the plaintiff and the defendant. The defendant had breached that agreement. Because of the breach, the plaintiff had suffered loss, damage, injury. That's what need to show. That's why, you see, even though the law says, an agreement or contract not necessary must be in writing. It can be in writing, can be oral or by way of conduct or a combination of all the three. Am I right? I told you all right. Except agreement under seal, it must be in writing. Sales and purchase agreement, wills, a loan agreement, and all the things. Other than that, not necessary to be in writing. But if it's verbal, more difficult to prove, right? Because your words is against the word of another person, right? That's why always advisable to enter into an agreement and put it in writing. At least you have the piece of paper to show proof, because the signature of the person will be there. Am I right? Okay. Now, you see, the fourth element, is not enough to show the person has suffered the loss. You know why? The remoteness test, yeah, remoteness. You know how to spell remoteness, right? REMOTENESS. The remoteness test says sometimes the plaintiff would have suffered a loss. Sometimes the plaintiff would have suffered the loss. Sometimes the plaintiff would have suffered the loss, but it's not due to the breach of the plaintiff. It's not due to the breach of the it's not due to the breach of the defendant. It could be other factors. Okay, so the remoteness test says, what it says is the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff must naturally flow from the breach. I repeat again, the remoteness test says the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff must naturally flow from the breach, meaning there must be a connection between the breach and the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the only then. Sometimes there could have been a breach. The loss, damage suffered by the plaintiff could be due to other factors. Then okay, there you need to know two cases, Go and here. One is the case of Wagamount and D. You got it? Wagamount, and the other case
Sorry.
is
Can you repeat that?
Follow me.
You are lagging just now.
What then?
Sir, can you repeat because you are lagging just now? You are lagging just now.
Okay. Wagon, W-A-G-O-N. W-A-G-O-N. Wagon. Another word is Mount, M-O-U-N-D. M-O-U-N-D. Wagamount. Another case is Re-Polomis. R-E. Re. Another word is Polomis. P-O-L-E-M-I-S. Got it? Re-Polomis. Okay. Now, these are the two leading cases here, which touches on remoteness of damage. Okay, very briefly here, what happened in the first case here, in the Wagamount case here? This is what happened in the Wagamount case here. One ship. I think I did explain about the facts of the case, right? Shelley,
Which?
have I explained the story, what happened in the case of Wagamount?
I don't remember.
Okay,
I don't remember the
can you
name.
remember? Huh?
I don't remember the name. So maybe you talk about the story, then I will recap it.
Okay, now what happened here? There was a ship, S-H-I-P, on repair at the port, in the harbor. Did I explain? No. Ada? Hello? Did that?
I don't know, sir, because there's a lot of cases is in the ship one, so not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you never mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Okay. There was a ship at the harbor undergoing repair work. Okay. Maintenance work at the port. Port means, of course, the ship will be in the water, right? Betul kan? Air. Okay. Few kilometers deep further into the sea, yeah, there was one oil tanker. Oil tanker which carries petroleum. Okay, they carry petroleum, oil tanker, ship. There was a leakage. There was a leakage, and the oil spilled into the sea. When oil spilled into the sea, of course, the oil will be at the top and the water will be below, am I right? Okay, so petroleum around the ship there. Few kilometers away from the port, few kilometers away, there was a strong wind, breeze, sea breeze, yeah, pushed the petrol all towards the port. It arrived at the port. So this guy, they were doing some repairing work on the ship, They were using welding, welding? Kimpal, what's kimpal in Bahasa? We call it kimpal. In English, we call welding. They used to join the metal, to use one kind of a heat, the spark. While they're doing, the spark fall on the water and the ship caught fire. Now, the question in the court is the cause of the damage due to the leakage of the petrol from that oil tanker, which is 3 or 4 kilometers away in the deep sea. Now, would the owner of that ship, would he have thought that because of the leakage, a ship at the port will burn down?
Teacher, before you asking question, I want to ask some question first.
Okay.
So in this case, there are two ships, right? One is under repairing, and then another one is got leakage one.
Yes.
And the sparking is caused by the repairing, the maintenance, right?
Yes, because you know why? There's a leakage from the oil tanker. So a strong wind blow the water towards the pot, So the pot where they're doing the welding work here, the top layer is oil, oil. When these guys, they were welding the ship, the spark fall on the water and the ship got burnt. Because petroleum, of course, it will burn a man. So now the question is the owner of that ship liable towards the owner of the ship which were undergoing maintenance work? That was the question. Would the owner of that ship, would he have foresee that because of this leakage, this ship would be burned in the port? That was the question. But what do you think? Is it fair to make the owner of the ship tanker liable for the fire at the port or not? That was the question in the court. What do you think? Yes? Hello? Can anyone help me? What do you think? Joshua, you're on the line, Joshua? Joshua, are you on the line? Joshua, Lenny? I could see your name there. Anyone can help me other than Joshua? Anyone, please? Hello? Can anyone help me? Yes? Shelly, what do you think, Shelly? Shelly, what do you think?
I think no.
Okay, why are you saying no? Why are you saying no? Why do you think, why are you saying no?
I think, in my opinion, because it is something that causes indirectly, unintentionally.
Unintentionally.
It's far away, right?
Far away.
So the owner of the ship also, he didn't know that the oil will cause the fire.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So you are saying not liable. That means you are saying the owner of that ship is not liable to that.
Yeah, I think so.
You think so or you're sure? That's what I want to know.
Okay, if me, I sure because yeah.
So for you, sure lah.
Yeah.
For you, sure.
I think not liable.
Not liable.
Yeah.
Why he wouldn't have thought? He wouldn't have thought that this thing will catch fire.
Yeah. Because he didn't want it to be leaked also, right? He also didn't know it will be leaked also, right?
He also doesn't want to leak. Okay, that means some of the people can argue, right? That means you never maintained the ship properly. That's why there was the leakage. Am I right? You knew that. Am I right? The oil will spill. Okay, here unfortunately the ship got fire, but sometimes the fishes can die also, isn't there? You're endangering the life also in the sea, isn't there?
Then I think liable.
Yes. Okay. Now, so that is the remoteness test here. If any reasonable person can foresee because of this thing can happen, then yes. Otherwise, no, not liable. Yeah. Go and read up the case of Re-Polomis also. Go and read up the case of Re-Polomis. So that means, Yeah.
So
Yes.
in this case, the owner is liable of the maintaining ship.
So
owner.
liable. So liable or not liable? What do you think? Hello.
I think it's liable.
You think liable. Okay, if you think it's liable, then liable. If you think it's not liable, then not liable. Can I come to that conclusion?
Not really, because the
Tell me.
because I think this fulfill the requirement of negligence that the
Okay,
careless
is there an issue of negligence on the part of the oil tanker?
I think both parties also have.
Okay, why are you saying both parties? Why the owner of the ship? It was undergoing repair work at the ship, and of course, when they're doing the maintenance work, and then they have to do welding job and all the things. Am I right?
Yeah.
Of course, they know that the thing will fall, the spark will fall on the water. They knew this is. So it's are you following? So the owner of the thing, yeah, has he been negligent? That was the question there. Was he negligent or not? The owner of the oil tanker. He knew that, yeah, if he did not maintain the ship properly, the oil tanker properly, there'll be a leakage. If the leakage, of course, if the oil spill into the water, it will kill whatever living things in the water. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
True. So if you are the judge in that particular case, how would you have decided? If let's say you are the judge there, how would you have decided? How would you have decided? If let's say you are sitting as a judge in this particular
I would say
situation,
it's
how
liable
do
lah.
yes, how do you judge that?
I would say it's liable.
Liable, am I right? Otherwise,
Yes.
some of them might go. Otherwise, some of them might go and throw off all the dirty oil into the sea. Am I right? Deep sea, am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So of course liable. Okay. So if it's not
Okay.
reasonably foreseeable, then not liable. If it's reasonably foreseeable, any reasonable person will know if there's a leakage, even though it doesn't cause harm to the ship, to any living things, then he owes the duty of care. Am I right? Okay. Now, for breach, I've given you all one case, right? For duty of care, which case I've given you all? Donahue and Stevenson, right? To establish duty of care, you all have the case of Donahue and Stevenson. Am I right? Yes or no? Any Malaysian case I've given you all? Hello?
For which?
Huh?
Which part?
No. To establish duty of care, you have the leading case of Donahue and Stevenson. The leading judge was Lord Atkin in that particular case. Am I right? Lord Atkin was the leading judge in that particular case. Am I right? Lord Atkin was the leading judge in that particular case. Am I right?
Yes.
Betul kan?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did I give you all any other Malaysian cases? Did I given you all any other Malaysian cases?
Is it the Lee Kim Sai versus someone?
What's that?
Lee Kim Sai, right? Lee Kim Sai case.
No, sorry. It's not Lee Kim Sai, Lim Kabi versus Abdul Latif. Lim, okay. Lim, Lim, K-A-R-B-E-E. Lim Kabi versus Abdul Latif. It's a 1972 High Court of Kuala Lumpur, I think. Lim Kabi, not Lim Kim Sai, Lim Kim Sai is the former Transport Minister of Malaysia from MCA. Okay, got it? Hello? Dapat?
Yes.
Okay. Who won in that particular case? Siapa yang menang? Who won in that particular case? Who won that particular case? Who win in that particular case?
Lim Kabi.
Lim Kabi, am I right? Lim Kabi won the case, right? Why did the judges deliver judgment in favor of Lim Kabi? Why?
Legend.
Why did Lim Kabi won the case? Why?
He also duty of care.
Who owe a duty of care?
Abdul Latif.
Abdul Latif, as a roadwork consultant, he owes a duty of care towards other road users. Am I right? He should have cleared all the debacles and whatever remaining after the road work is over, but he left it at the edge of the road. Am I right? And it has been there for a couple of months. It got corroded and got rusty. Am I right? True, isn't that? So that was the bridge there. Am I right? Betul kan? So he won the case. Yeah. Okay. So these two cases you can use to establish duty of care. For breach of duty, what case would you talk about for breach of duty? For breach of duty, what case would you talk about? For breach of duty. Hello? Did I give you all a case for breach of duty? I given you all one case at Bolton versus Stone. Am I right? Hello?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay. So once you have established duty of care already, then the next step is you have to establish that there was a breach. Am I right? Okay. So to establish breach, you can use, of course, you can also use the Donahue and Sivan case to establish breach. So you can say the breach was the decomposed nail. Am I right? But you do not repeat the same case, but you can use this case of Bolton versus Stone. Bolton, B-O-L-T-O-N versus Stone, S-T-O-N-E. Bolton versus Stone. Okay, why this case is important? Yeah, why? Yeah, because even though you can use the case of Donahue and Stevenson to explain what is breach here, or even Lim Kabi versus Abdul Latif, but why Bolton you can use this important case is because in Bolton take down somewhere in Bolton versus Stone they use one word called the magnitude of the risk. The magnitude, MAGNITUDE, the magnitude of risk must be high. The magnitude of the risk must be high. Only then the magnitude of the risk must be high. The magnitude of the risk must be high. Only then you can make the defendant liable. Only then you can make the defendant liable. That means the magnitude of risk must be high. Only then you can make the defendant liable. Okay, what you mean by the magnitude of risk must be high? Let me explain. Okay, did I explain about this case in any one of the earlier classes? Ada? Hello? Have I given the story of this case?
I think so. You can repeat again because I don't remember.
Okay, what happened there was a cricket field, cricket, they play cricket, right? Okay, there was a cricket field. There was a cricket field, They were playing cricket in that field for the last 80 years. The last 80 years, they were playing cricket in that particular cricket ground, Near the cricket ground, there are houses. But the cricket ground, they have a fencing. They have a fencing up to 12 feet high, a fencing, where when they're playing cricket, the ball would not come out of the ground, Okay. Now, in every day they play cricket. every day they play cricket there. But in the last 80 years, in the last 80 years, only 6 times, yeah, the ball has come out of the fencing, That means, yeah, the ball has come out of the fencing in the last 80 years, only 6 times. But they were playing cricket every day, Every day they're playing cricket. But over the last 80 years, only 6 times the ball has come out of the ground and hit a person. So in this case, what happened in Bolton versus Stone, one person was injured by the hit of the cricket ball. So when this case went to the court, the issue is the owner of the cricket ground liable towards the person who has suffered injury due to the hit of the ball? That was the question of the court. Okay, what do you think? Do you think is the defendant at fault in this particular case? When I say defendant means, yeah, the owner of the cricket ground. Is he liable towards the person, the plaintiff in this case? The plaintiff is the one who suffered the injury. That was the question to court. What do you think? Young, if you are the judge there, what would your decision would be? Hello, Young, when
I think they not liable because the possibility is really small. A year only 6 times, but they play every day.
That is the point I wanted to make here. The risk, the magnitude of the risk is very, very low. The magnitude of the risk is very, very low. So therefore, the judge said not liable. If let's say out of the 80 years, yeah, let's say 100 times the ball has hit somebody, then the risk is high, am I right? So here it depends on the degree of the risk. So for breach also, they see the degree of the risk. If it's very frequent, then liable. Very, very rarely, then not liable. Because the owner has already taken all the necessary steps by putting up the fencing there or whatever he has done. Am I right? He has put up the fencing and all the things. Am I right? So he has taken all the precautionary methods. Am I right?
Teacher,
Ah.
the two case you just mentioned is under duty of care, right?
Now we are talking on breach of duty. Now, what is your question? What's your question, please? What's your question again, please? What's your question?
Just now you mentioned the Lim Kabi, the motorcycle one is under duty of care.
Lim Kabi is a case you use for duty of care, a Malaysian case. You see, Lim Kabi you can also use for breach also. Lim Kabi you can also use for breach. You know why? Because the breach there was not clearing all the debacles, all the iron rod after the road work, they should have removed. They left it there. That was the breach there, am I right? Betul kan? Hello?
Yeah, I think so. It's
that-
supposed to be cracking the mouth.
They supposed to remove all the whatever left out things, right? They did not. So that was the breach there. So why I'm using this case, Bolton and Stone, is to establish. So that means to establish breach, the magnitude of the risk must be high. Only then you can make the defendant liable. If the magnitude of the risk is very, very, very slim, then it's unfair to make the defendant liable. Am I right? Betul kan? So here what I'm trying to talk is the magnitude of risk must be very frequent, then you make the person liable. Otherwise, not fair, it's not fair.
Teacher, so the duty of care and breach of duty is under law of tort, right?
Hello, okay. Now I go back to the thing and maybe to let others also know on this. Law of tort is the main thing. Under law of tort, the main topic is negligence. So we are talking about negligence here. How to establish negligence? How to establish negligence? So that means here that the plaintiff need to prove negligence only then the defendant would be liable. Am I right?
Yes.
Only then the defendant would be liable. If the defendant did not, if the defendant if the defendant did not uh, show proof that he has been negligent, the defendant has been negligent, then the plaintiff will fail in his case. Am I right? So here is the duty of the plaintiff first to establish that the defendant owe a duty of care towards the plaintiff. That's the first thing you need to establish, that the defendant owe a duty of care towards the plaintiff. So here the duty must be a legal duty and it cannot be a moral duty. You know the difference, I think I've already explained to you all, yeah? The difference between moral duty and legal duty. Am I right?
Yes.
So here, the plaintiff need to show proof that the defendant owe a legal duty towards the plaintiff, a legal duty. So once he has established, once the plaintiff already proved that the defendant owe a legal duty towards the plaintiff, only then you go to the second question to establish duty of care. The second question is whether the defendant had breached that legal duty. So you have to establish whether the defendant had breached that legal duty. Only when the defendant had breached that legal duty, only then the defendant is liable. If the defendant had not breached the legal duty, that's not liable. Okay, in what's that? In the case of Lim Kabi and Donovan Stevenson, the plaintiff has already showed proof that the defendant had breached the legal duty. Am I right? Betul kan? Okay. Now, so because the breach of legal duty there is one, in the first case, Donegan Stevenson, the decomposed snail shouldn't be in the bottle of the ginger beer, but it was there. That was the breach. Whereas in Lim Kabi, the breach was the contractor failed to remove whatever things which he left after the roadwork is over. That was the breach there. Okay. So what I'm trying to explain now, based on the case of Bolton versus Stone, the breach itself is not sufficient, but the risk or the magnitude of the breach must be high. Only then the defendant is liable. If the magnitude of the risk is very, very low, then the defendant is not liable. Based on the case of Bolton versus Stone, there the magnitude or the degree of risk is very, very slim, because over 80 years period, only 6 times the ball has come out of the court and hit a person, which is very, very rare. Am I right? So the judge said here there was no breach, because when moreover the judge in this particular case said the person has already taken the necessary step by putting up a high fencing. Am I right? Every day they're playing, every day they're playing over 80 years. In a year, there are 365 days. Times by 80, 365 times by 80, how many? Hello, Young. Hello, Young. 365 times by 80 years. How many? How many times they've been playing cricket there? Hello, Young.
29,200.
29,000?
200.
Okay, so that means they've been playing cricket there for 29,200 times, you know. Out of that, only 6 times the ball has come out of the court, you know, which is very, very rare, very negligible, am I right? So the judge said not liable. If it's a very frequent, then yes. So here the judges will take into consideration to establish breach based on how frequent it is. How frequent is it? It's not frequent, then of course no. Are you following? Hello? Got it ready now?
Yes.
Okay. Now you can also use another case here. In another case here, for breach also, I'll give you another case. Paris, Paris, Paris versus Stephanie, Step, Stepney. Paris versus Stephanie Borough Council. Got it? Hello, did you all get it?
Yes.
Stephanie Borough, Borough Council. Borough Council is a local council, you know. Okay, what happened to this guy, Paris, yeah? Paris only had one eye. When I say Paris, this guy, the name of the person is Paris, you know. He had only one eye, which is visible. Another eye is blind. Even though he has two, even though he has two eyes, of course, all human beings got two eyes, am I right? But only one eye he can use it. One eye is blind. This is due to the war. You know, during the war, his one eye is gone already. Only he can see things through one eye only. You got it now so far? Okay. This guy was employed by the local council. He was employed to work in the Stephanie Borough Council. Okay, has a assistant in a workshop. As an assistant in a workshop. Okay, got it? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So he has been employed to work as an assistant in a workshop in the local council. Okay. Now, what happened to him here? The local council supposed to provide him goggles. You know what is goggles, right? You know what are goggles? Goggles. Goggles is the one they used to cover their eyes now. When they're doing welding and everything, and they used to cover their, when people are doing welding, they use this kind of goggles to cover their eyes, you know, from sparks falling into the eye, you know. But what happened? This guy, the employer did not provide these goggles to the workers, you know, never provide. Okay. And what happened? This guy was doing the work and the spark fall on one of the eyes, his eyes, and he got blinded already now. Okay. So now both eyes is gone already. Okay. Now the question here in the court is, was the council liable? That was the issue in the court. Was the council liable? The council, what they argued, you know, only one of his eyes got the spark. Another eye, he still have another eyes to see. But they failed to understand that one eye he already blinded already. Only he was based on only on one eye he was doing the work. Okay, now so here, even though the employer was not aware he's only having one eye, but the mere fact the employer failed to provide the goggles for him to do the work effectively and safely, and the employer did not provide a conducive working environment for that particular employee. Am I right? So therefore, the employer was liable here. Therefore, the employer was liable in this particular situation. You got it? Hello? Hello, are you all following?
Yes.
Okay, so there the employer was liable because the employer has failed to provide the necessary equipment for the employee to carry out his duty effectively. Okay, you get it? Okay, now, are you all clear on this?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm still in breach here. You know why I'm going slow on this here? Because these are the things which you need to know whether for your final exam or for even for your assignment work. That's why I'm going through some of these cases with you. Yeah. Okay. Another thing to verify on the breach here, factors I just put on as a small heading here. Factors in deciding a breach of duty. Factors factors, factors in deciding, a breach of duty. Okay, factors in deciding a breach of duty. Okay, I give you a case here. What? WATT. WATT versus Hertfordshire County Council. Hertfordshire County Council. Hertfordshire, Hertfordshire, Hertfordshire County, County, County Council, Council, Hertfordshire County Council. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what happened here? P, the plaintiff, a firefighter. P, a firefighter. Fireman, yeah. P, the plaintiff is a firefighter, was riding inside a truck on the way to an accident. So this firefighter was inside the truck, because they were on the way to go and rescue people because there's some fire, Okay, on the way to an accident. In the truck was a heavy, inside the truck, there was a heavy unsecured jack. In the truck was a heavy unsecured jack, and when the truck driver put on the brake, the jack moved and seriously injured the plaintiff. Okay, seriously injured
Sorry,
the
can you
plaintiff.
repeat again, sir? In the
Okay.
truck there was a heavy unsecured jack, and
Okay,
then
okay. In the truck was a heavy, unsecured jack. Unsecured, UNSECURED, unsecured jack. And when the truck driver put on the brakes, the jack moved and seriously injured the plaintiff because the jack was unsecured. That means they never put a belt and tie it, Okay. Now, do you think the person, the firefighter could sue the local council because he was inside the truck? He was injured. What do you think? Do you think the local council, because the fire brigade, they belong to the local council. Do you think the local council was liable for the injury of the plaintiff, because the plaintiff is one of the firefighter? He was inside that particular when they were going to put off the fire, and the driver put emergency brake, and this person, the unsecured jack fall and he was injured. What do you think? You know what happened in this case here? The judge said there was no breach of duty. There was no breach of duty. You know why? The emergency of the situation, and the utility of the defendant's conduct in saving a life outweighed the need to take precautions. That's what the judge said. I repeat again, The judgment was there was no breach of duty. Why? The emergency of the situation. The emergency of the situation and the utility of the defendant's conduct. That means the local council, in saving a life outweighed the need to take precautions. That is the conclusion they come up with. Are you following? Because emergency
Teacher,
situation
can you repeat again? Outweigh what?
outweighed the need to take precaution, to outweigh, OUTWEIGHED, the need to take precautions, the need to take precautions. Got it? So what the judge said is, yeah, this is an emergency situation. This is an emergency situation. This is an emergency situation. So they were rushing to the place where they're going to put out fire, isn't that? So the life of the people there is much more important than taking the necessary precaution at this emergency situation. After he was only injured, he didn't die or anything at that. Because if, and moreover, he being a fireman, yeah, he should know what are the risks involved also, am I right? In an emergency situation, am I right? You should have taken the necessary steps also. Maybe perhaps in this case here, he knew that the jack was unsecured, but he just kept quiet. He thought that the jack would not fall, but the driver, he put an emergency brake, and of course, the thing fall on the firefighter, on the plaintiff, and he was injured. Okay, got it? Hello?
Yes.
Yes,
Ah.
yes, yes.
So that is more important. Okay, so breach, and then of course the plaintiff, the next one is the plaintiff must show proof that the plaintiff suffered loss, damage, or injury. Then you can use the case of limb Kabi, or you can use the case of what's that? Donegan Stevenson, to show Donegan Stevenson, she suffered gastrointestinal pain. Am I right? In limb Kabi, one of his leg was amputated, was removed. Am I right? So isn't that? Okay, that is the thing that need to be proven. Yeah. Okay. Now, and then the last one I did mention is the remoteness test. Am I right? The remoteness test. Yeah. Okay. If one of these, the plaintiff failed to show proof. If he did not show proof in one of these things, then of course the plaintiff will lose the case. So that means first the plaintiff need to show proof that the defendant owe a duty of care. Once he has proved that the duty of care is owed by the plaintiff, owed by the defendant towards the plaintiff, and then the second thing, the plaintiff must need to show proof that the defendant had breached that duty. If there's no
Sir,
breach,
again,
huh?
can you
the
repeat
first,
again?
okay, you see here, the first thing, the plaintiff, okay, so the burden of proof in a civil case is on the plaintiff. The first step is the plaintiff must prove that the defendant owe a legal duty of care towards the plaintiff. That's the first hurdle he needs to show proof. Once he has proved that the defendant owe a legal duty of care towards the plaintiff, then the second step is the plaintiff needs to show proof that that legal duty of care has been breached by the defendant, must be breached by the defendant. Once the plaintiff has shown proof that the defendant had breached that duty, then the third thing the plaintiff need to show proof is that because of the breach, the plaintiff had suffered loss, damage, or injury. Because of the breach, the plaintiff had suffered loss, damage, or injury. Got it? It, dapat. And fourthly, so that means, yeah, the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff must naturally flow from the breach. It must naturally flow from the breach. It must naturally flow from the breach. It must naturally flow from the breach. Very, very important. It must naturally flow from the breach. Dapat? Hello, buddy. It must naturally flow from the breach, because sometimes breach can be one thing and the loss or damage suffered can be another thing. Then you cannot claim. So here, the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff must naturally flow from the breach. Meaning there must be a connection between the breach and the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff. Because sometimes the breach can be one thing, and the loss or damage suffered by the plaintiff could be another thing. So cannot claim. So that means there must be a connection, there must be a link between the breach and the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff. And lastly, the remoteness test. For remoteness test, you can use the case of Bergamot or the case of Re-Polomis. Okay, can we just take a small 5 minutes break here, and then I will make your
Teacher,
yes.
which mean for this case, the plaintiff is the what or the concern?
No, what's your question again, Young?
So in that case, you just mentioned the what vs the what?
Okay, the last one is the remoteness test. The remoteness test says the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff must cannot be too remote or can be too far. That cannot claim. So that means here, is it reasonably foreseeable? Is it reasonably foreseeable? So that means any logic person, any reasonable person will come to conclusion here, because of this loss has taken place. Any reasonable person can come to a conclusion. It can't be too far. Let's say I give an example here. There's one guy, 150, okay, make it 150 kg, 150 kg, and that person is having a gun with him, very strong build and having a gun with him. Another guy, only 50 kg, very thin guy, and going near that guy and showing him like this, do you want this? And he got frightened and he took a gun and killed him. The question in the court he's saying is, he defended himself. He worried that this fellow will punch him. Because of that, he killed him as a self-defense. Is it reasonable? What do you think? Yes? What do you think? Yeah.
Just now what you mentioned, what punch him? The last part I didn't really hear clearly. My bad.
No, what I meant is here, one gentleman is 150 kg, strong built, and having a gun with him, Another guy is only 50 kg, very thin guy. He don't have any weapon with him. And he's showing to the strong man, do you want this? Do you want this? A punch? Do you want me to give you a punch? And that person is telling, he got worried that this guy will punch him. He took a gun and defended himself by shooting and killing him. Is it reasonable or unreasonable?
I think it's unreasonable since the big guy is strong enough to punch him.
He's strong enough to punch him. And also this guy, the thin guy, don't have any weapons, anything with him also.
Yeah.
So can he say that, hey, I want to defend myself, I got worried he might punch me, that's why I gun him down. It's a defense for me. Can you say, argue in the court? Is it reasonable or not?
Not really.
So sometimes when the judges, when they make a decision, it must be fair also, am I right?
Yeah.
Otherwise cannot. Okay, so I will take a small break and I will see you all very shortly.
Teacher, what I'm asking is the firefighter a plaintiff or defendant?
The firefighter is the plaintiff. He's the one who's suing the local council.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Last question, sir. That you say about the loss and injury suffered by the plaintiff must naturally fall on the breach, right?
Must naturally flow from the breach. It must naturally flow, F-L-O-W, flow from the breach. That means, there must be a connection. There must be a connection, or there must be a link between the breach and the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff, only then liable. Otherwise, no.
And then this is under the breach of duty, is it?
No, you see, okay, you see here, you all need to know this, to establish duty of care, the plaintiff need to prove 4 elements. The plaintiff need to prove 4 elements. The first element is the plaintiff must show proof that the defendant owe a legal duty of care towards the plaintiff. That is the first hurdle the plaintiff need to show proof in the court. That's the first hurdle, that the defendant owe a legal duty of care. He must owe a legal duty of care. Only then the defendant is liable. If moral duty not liable. Can you all differentiate between legal duty and moral duty? Can you all
Yes.
differentiate between legal duty and moral duty?
Yes.
What's the difference, Ali?
It's like, for example, I drive a car and then I bang someone, then I got a legal duty, because I'm the one who hit the person. But if there's one day I saw someone bang someone, but I didn't go to help, then it's under moral of care or moral of care,
Ah.
moral of duty. Yeah.
And you have taken him to the hospital, he would have survived. But since you never take, he died. Now, question in the court is, do you owe a duty of care towards the person who died? The answer
No.
is no, because that is a moral duty. Breach of moral duty, you're not answerable. You're only answerable when you breach the legal duty.
Yeah. So the
Am I
how
right?
to establish
That's
negligence,
the first.
got 4 points, right? Duty of care, breach of duty, and then
Damage. You see, the first one is you establish duty of care. The second one, you need to establish breach. Once you see, the first hurdle is once you have already established the defendant has owed a legal duty of care towards the plaintiff. You already proved already that the defendant owe a legal duty already, already proven already. So once you have proved that, then the second thing you need to prove is that legal duty the defendant had breached. He had breached that legal duty. If he didn't breach the legal duty, then it's not liable. So here you must show proof that the defendant had breached the legal duty. Now going back to the Donoghue and Stevenson case, what was the breach of the duty there? The decomposed snail inside that bottle of ginger beer, right? By right, there shouldn't be any decomposed snail inside that. That means they have compromised on the quality control. Am I right? Betul kan? That was the breach there. And in Lim Kabi, the breach was the contractor should have removed all the whatever things which have left out after completing the roadwork, but he just left it there. That was the breach. He shouldn't have left it there. That was the breach there. And the third thing is the plaintiff need to show proof. The third element is because of the breach, the plaintiff had suffered loss, damage, or injury. If there's no loss, damage, or injury, even though there's a breach, but no loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff, then the plaintiff will fail in his action. There must be loss, damage. Okay, in Donoghue and Stevenson, the damage there was, the injury is she suffered from gastrointestinal pain. Whereas in Lim Kabi, it was his leg was amputated. Am I right? Betul kan? Hello? His leg was removed. That was
yes.
the breach there. Sorry, that was the injury, loss, or damage suffered by the plaintiff. And the last element need to show proof is the breach should have, that means, the remoteness test. The fourth one is the remoteness test. That means, if the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff is too remote, the chances is very, very slim, then can never claim. Like the case of Bolton versus Stone. Bolton versus Stone, even though the plaintiff there suffered some injury, right? But the judge said, hey, this is too remote. The magnitude or the risk is very, very slim. Has only taken place 6 times the last over 80 years, which is cannot be because the owner of the cricket ground already taken all the necessary steps by putting a fencing there, preventing the ball from coming out. But he has taken all the necessary steps. That means that's what somebody did mention. 29,200 times they've played cricket. 29,200 times they played cricket over 80 years. Only 6 times the ball has come out of the fencing, which is very, 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 very slim. So that's it, not liable. The owner of the cricket ground is not liable. Dapat. Okay,
Yes,
got it?
yes. Can.
Okay, we just take a small break. Yeah, I'll come back shortly. Yeah.